Jomon in Japanese means cord pattern or string pattern, and it takes its name from a particular type of pottery which was made in the Japanese archipelago starting around about 14,000 years ago until just over 2,000 years ago, when it was replaced by something called the Yayoi period, when rice farming started in the Japanese archipelago. During this long Jomon period, people living there largely survived on wild food resources, nuts and shellfish and wild boar and all sorts of delicious things. And in their spare time, they loved to make pottery, including something called Dogu. And Dogu means ceramic figurine with some kind of spiritual significance. And we don't know what that spiritual significance is because unfortunately we can't talk to those people and they left no written records. There are about 20,000 Dogu have been excavated from archaeological sites in Japan. They're made of clay. They're usually made by making sausage-like coils of clay, rolling them up, and then making objects like these. Sometimes they just take a lump of clay and they squish it all together and they make faces, they make body parts, and then they decorate them sometimes with these same Jomon designs, these cord pattern designs. But as you can see from the little collection of faces we've got here, they've all got their own personalities. It's really interesting for us archaeologists to try and understand why for these people way back then in prehistoric Japan, representing so many different types of faces was so important. Here's lots of different ways of applying plant fibers to clay impressions. This is really easy to do. You can do it with bits of tissue paper actually, or string, and you just twist it all in lots of different ways. I think there are about 250 different ways of tying up strings have been identified from the Jomon period so far. And then you roll it on the clay and you get this amazing array of different designs. The Jomon culture is found across the Japanese archipelago, from Kyushu to Hokkaido. You get a different culture in Okinawa. The bulk of the sites are from the eastern part of the Japanese archipelago, from Tokyo eastwards up to Hokkaido. Here's just a little picture showing some of the diversity of pottery styles. Here's the oldest figurine we know about from Shiga Prefecture, 13,000 years old. And you can see it's teeny tiny. It's only about 3 centimeters tall, got no head, got no legs and arms, but it's got breasts and it's got hips. And we like to think that Henry Moore would immediately have recognized this as a human representation. Really important. Here's just a little picture showing the array of some of these different types of dogus and some of the other what we call secondary tools from the Jomon period, things that didn't seem to have a primary function relating to your everyday life, how you cooked or how you dressed yourself. And these are objects that seem to speak to some kind of understanding of another world, the spiritual world. And then we've got this lovely collection of wonderful, some of the best figurines from Japan. And what's really nice about these at the moment in Japan is that many of them are being recognized as very important, valuable artworks, even from a contemporary perspective. And some of these objects, especially the one in the middle, the one on the bottom, the one that seems to be praying on the bottom right, and the one with those lovely baggy trousers at the top right. 5 of these have now been designated what they call national treasures of Japan. That is the highest level of designation of a cultural object, an art object that you can get. So these figurines are made by people who really knew how to make pots. They were making pots without a pottery wheel. Those of you who are used to making pots, you know all about the wheel, you know about kilns. These people have no potter's wheel, they had no kilns. So these pots are fired in open bonfires, and so these red and black ones at the bottom here, they've been painted with red and black lacquer. And it seems to me that was color coordinations that Jomon people really liked. They made big cooking pots. Then you can see there's a kind of thing that looks like a teapot here. Spouted vessels seem to be very important. So the the serving of your food, how you serve your food was important to these people. And there's a lovely sort of a Sunday best dinner set at the top there, again, with some of these spouted vessels, these vase-shaped vessels, which are probably for pouring some kind of liquid, maybe even some kind of alcoholic beverage was being brewed up. There are beautiful plates and bowls. So it's not only the cooking of the food, but the presentation of the food was also very important to these people. At the bottom here, we've got what look like a couple of lamps, and maybe these were used as lamps for people to light up their pit houses. Here's just a few pictures of some of the best Jomon pots. They're very cool. Usually they've got wonderful designs, and I think they inspire modern artists in Japan. We also know that numbers were important to these people in prehistory. The number 3 and the number 5. You can look at these two creatures here. Can you see they've got 3 fingers each? They haven't got 5 fingers. The potters have chosen to give them 3 fingers each. Very strange. We don't quite understand why that is. And there are other numerical concepts that get used as well. Here's another one of these great objects. Is that one of the biggest of the figurines. It's over 40 centimeters tall. It's called a Chuku Dogu, the hollow Dogu. It's the clay around the edges, especially around the tummy. You can see it's got a belly button and it's got a sort of a hairy chest. The clay there is no more than 2 millimeters thick. And so to make this object and fire it in a bonfire, and it still survives, is amazing. And you can see it's got a lovely pair of trousers on. It's got some sort of what looks like some tattooing or maybe some 5 o'clock shadow around its chin. And if you look at the head, the head is slightly turned up a little bit, and again, giving it this sort of personality. But something we do know about these Jomon people is they love to ornament themselves. They love to decorate themselves. They were very particular about their hairdos and the clothes they wore and what their teeth looked like. And we see this represented in all of these Dogu figures as well. They wore these beautiful ceramic earrings. They had no metal, these people. There's no gold or silver, but it didn't stop them making these amazing ceramic objects, and there's other things that are a lot of fun to find. So here's just a few more of these figurines and the houses that they would have been made in. So if you get yourself down to the British Museum, we've got a lovely collection of what we call these flame pots there. Just going to finish off now with a couple of really lovely examples. The Venus of Tanabatake, which is one of these national treasures discovered in a pit in the middle of one of these settlements at Tanabatake in Nagano Prefecture in central Japan. They're just amazing objects. This is actually a solid figurine made out of just lumps of clay that all been squished together, and then they've mixed in some shiny mica. And so when you look at this in the light, or if you looked at it in the sort of glittery firelight, the surface of this object glitters and glows. It's actually really amazing. Obsidian was really important. This came from a grave pit. Archaeologists often find that all the bones have long since vanished. But this object seems to be floating in the middle of the pit, and it was probably held in the arms of the person who was buried in that pit. A very important object, and it reconstructed to look like this, wearing a lovely mask, and you can see these very detailed designs, and there you can see how the mask has been held on by the head. And we've got a lovely film. This is the Nakapura figurine. We've made some nice paper versions of this. We've got a nice film, which I'm going to make available to you all as well, which shows how you can make one of these out of paper if you haven't got time to make one out of clay.